Hello and welcome to this special episode of the Rural Roundup, one of a 6-part series called Unsung Heroes. I'm Calum Johnston, and in this episode I visit Alex Marshall and Heather Dyet at Haggs Farm, where 3 generations of the family farm, including Heather's grandmother, mother Janice, and her father Alex, who also joins us today. We discussed their recent upgrade to a slurry separator. Now, through speaking to both Heather and Alex, it was clear to me that on their family dairy farm, the unsung hero is machinery. Their slurry separator has improved farm efficiencies, grass and soil health, so much so they call it liquid gold. One of the efficiencies is that they have reduced their fertiliser application by 2/3, which has had a massive carbon footprint reduction. Later in this episode, I'll be joined by a colleague of mine, James Orr, an agricultural advisor with a special interest in the carbon footprint of livestock systems, who will tell us more about this unsung hero, the benefits, the things to know if you're considering it, and the positive impact it could have on your farm or croft and on the planet. Alex, Heather, thank you very much for coming on the podcast with us this morning. First of all, hopefully nice and easy, can you just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about the farm at home?
Basically, Alex Marshall from the farm, family farm, built up over the years. We just run it all ourselves, work away. Family's very much involved. That's basically it.
Now, it's a dairy unit, right? How many cows are you running?
They're about 180 to 200 all year round. Most is inseminated with sex semen, and all replacements are kept for breeding with, stroke selling. We sell a lot of cows and milk as well, and the odd beef thrown in just to keep things lightened.
Has the farm always been in the family, Alex, or is it something that you took on years ago?
No, I taken it on from my parents, who bought the farm in 1963, and we basically built it up for there.
And we've got your daughter Heather with us as well. Now we're recording this on a Thursday, so presumably, Heather, you've got another job off farm as well as the farm too.
Yeah, so I've actually changed my career over the last few years, and due to some health issues, so I now work part-time, and then a Thursday and kind of through the week out with work hours, and then support the farm and weekends. So I tend to work 7 days alongside doing my own role as well. So I'm the person who's, Heather, we need to do this podcast, you need to be here, we need some computer, we need some admin, we're going to vaccinate cattle, oh, can you help with milking tonight? Or just basically we're here at the drop of a hat, trying to just be at them, that we're here at the farm and involved with whatever's going on and try and move things forward. But my background is in compliance, so I'm unfortunately the sad person who loves doing paperwork, loves doing spreadsheets, and actually enjoyed doing farm assurance audits. I know that won't be very popular amongst your listeners, but I actually take an enjoyment of doing that paperwork and prepping that work for the day. And obviously enjoy being involved in the family farm alongside my brother. So my brother's full-time on the farm, and my sister also has her own job, and again works alongside the farm as well. So it is very much family driven, along with my grandmother, who is in her 80s, who still also is very much involved in day-to-day operations, being, in the parlour, milking cows of an afternoon. You wouldn't find her anywhere else other than carrying her spray can, spraying cows in the afternoon.
Very good. It sounds like a strong team, one that you're all playing to your individual strengths. Certainly sounds, Alex, it sounds as though Heather keeps you on your toes and keeps you right, by the sounds of it. Aside from the administrative side, which rightly or wrongly has to be done, thinking about the slurry separator that you've introduced, talk me through that. How does that work?
Well, the reason our slurry was getting rather, I would say it was too thick for dribble bars to comply with the law. My cubicles was all straw bedded in whole straw. We came away from that and went on to grinded straw, which helped a lot. But I still wasn't happy with the slurry I was getting. So then this will be going into the fourth winter of the separator. We introduced the separator, and what a difference. It just trouble-free with slurry on application, on growing grass management. It's unbelievable.
Now, I'm just thinking, admittedly from my viewpoint, I'm not a dairy man, okay? Although I've worked on dairy farms in the past, I used to do various bits and bobs of silage and stuff, but I don't know the ins and outs of the dairy enterprise. So for folk listening to this, like me, how would you describe your separator compared to, say, a more traditional type system? What are the main differences?
Well, the slurry scraped out into the pit. That hasn't changed. And before the separator, it was basically just pumped into the store, which is right next to the slurry pit. It just got in there and it would form a crust through time. That had ought to be thoroughly mixed before you go to spread slurry. We're spreading slurry back and forward all winter. So it means that you have to keep mixing all the time. You just can't draw slurry off without mixing it. And that's where the separator scored, because we just pulled the original pump out, and then there's another pump went in that feeds the separator up in the gantry right next to the tower. There were no hassle of putting it in, if you know what I mean. And now, going through the separator, there's nothing in the tower to separate out. Stays the same form of slurry for the first load you draw off to the last load, and you do not have to mix it.
So am I right in thinking it's you've got your almost like your solids and your liquids type thing? Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
So the solids, I'm just trying to visualize it. Can you describe what that looks like? I mean, in my head, I'm thinking, do the solids, is it just like dung that's spread through a dung spreader type thing? Is that what it is?
Basically, the separator squeezes it, and the liquid will drop through the bottom of it, which then runs into the store, and the solid stuff comes out the other end of the separator. It goes down the chute and into a trailer. And the easiest way to describe what goes into the trailer is it's like dry horse muck.
Why did you do it? So I think you said is this your fourth winter of it? Why did you do it? What was the main driver for it?
Because the slurry was getting left on top of the grass, contaminating grass. And it was coming back into the silage pit. It was drying onto the leaf. And the rakes and what have you are all bringing it back into the forage, which is no good for making silage. It was killing out swards as well. When we went onto the dribble bar, we tried it and it was leaving it in lines, and it was just killing out swards and wee rows with the slurry. Now we work with a dribble bar with no attachments, and it doesn't kill out anything. It just disappears overnight into the soil. Even in a drought, it'll disappear overnight. The emissions, after spreading it, you can't smell it the next day after spreading it.
Presumably then it's had a positive impact on the likes of soil health as well then?
I would like to think it would.
Still early days in terms of soil and health.
Aye.
And, evaluating what's going on, but it means that we can look at where we're applying our slurry, and also it then means we can look at where we're applying the dry matter, which tend to be in an arable field. So it helps with that we're targeting the right material to the right field. So again, we are monitoring our soil samples, and hopefully we will see an improvement in hopefully the right direction, but it's still early stages in terms of that. But in terms of grass growth,
Unbelievable. The fertiliser, I would say, we're only using a third of the fert that we used to use out the bag. We're using slurry to grow crops of grass, silage.
That was the other thing I was just going to touch on briefly was, presumably if you're spreading that is, it's going to reduce your fertiliser usage, but, it's going to have a big impact on farm profitability at the end of the day.
Yes. Oh, aye. It must have. I mean, I was buying fertiliser there a fortnight ago, 1 load. We used to buy 3 load. That's serious money in today's terms. It's just it's the impact when you put it on within 3 days, you'll just see it going green in front of your eyes. And the beauty is, we've done some trials, obviously, watching what's happening, but you can actually spread it and put cattle in it the next day and they'll go about eating because it's not been spread over the leaves. It's fit to go through the dribble bar and it'll just soak in right away. Whereas we had the other stuff, splash plates and such, it left the fields black for a fortnight, if you know what I mean.
Aye, so visually, you touched on it sort of visually and the smell as well. There's just been a big improvement there too.
Definitely.
just talking about liquid gold on farm, what we call it, liquid gold.
Oh, liquid gold, I love that. Yeah, just thinking about, I'm thinking about your milk contract just for a second. So, understandably now there's a much clearer focus on reducing emissions on farm and supply chain businesses, not just in dairy, but across the board, whether it's, arable, cereals, potatoes type thing. Supply chain businesses are putting more emphasis on farming businesses improving their environmental credentials. Would you say that introducing the separator, has that been viewed favourably by your customer or not?
To be honest, I never really spoke about it. I think they guys are really new to this. They're not just all on board with this yet, if you can understand me. They're not pushing it.
Is there anything that they are looking for going forward?
So at the moment, it's just been our carbon audit. We've not been pushed too much. It's not to say that it's not coming, but I would like to think we are a wee bit in front with where we are. But definitely, I think it's been positive within our carbon audit and our figures that we have done from that we are using the byproduct from the cows to then use it on farm. I think hopefully that should go in our favour.
You obviously speak very highly of it and had good experiences of it so far. Would you say you've influenced any of your friends or neighbours to do the same?
One of my neighbours, last winter, put up a new slurry store, and he's never put raw slurry in it. He gets a mobile separator in to do it now because of the hassle he would have trying to mix that big store. And he was in enough of hassle spreading slurry through the macerators and dribble bar until he separated it. So he's kind of followed it with their thinking with the separated slurry.
In that case, then, if I'm a farmer and I'm thinking about introducing it at home on my own farm, what advice would you give me? And is there anything that I would need to think about in advance of introducing it?
I would tell you, come out and see yours on farm. You've got to see it to believe it, and see what you get out it, and see the grass that we're slurrying. It's unbelievable. I think the first year we had it, we done 1 or 2 wee analysis, and the slurry come back 4% higher in nitrogen after it was separated. And that's per 1,000 gallon. The benefits, they're unreal.
Would you say there's benefits to storage as well? You know, if I'm tight on space type thing at home on the farm, does it help with space too?
Well, they talk about 20% extra that you're taking out the slurry. I would say in our circumstance, with bedding, with grinded straw, we probably will get more than 20% out the slurry store. It's coming out as the dry matter. And to be honest with you, the dry matter's not to be given away. There's a lot of value in the dry matter that comes out it. It will make grass grow as well. We just need to be selective when we put it onto silage fields. Obviously, we can put it on the new, but once it gets to February, we'll not spread any because we don't want contamination in the grass.
Clearly, you know, you've made improvements over the past couple of years. Would you say, Alex, Heather, have you got any other exciting projects or anything on the horizon?
The only other thing in the horizon is more slurry storage, so that I can hold more slurry for summer use to try and do away with bag fertiliser. We're relying on spreading it in the winter. We do get a good kick out it, if you know what I mean, but it could be slightly better used in the summer months, and that's what I'm heading to in the future.
Good stuff. I think, you know, clearly from what you're saying, there's a clear benefit on, you know, not only farm efficiencies, but there's a clear benefit on grass growth, soil health. You know, you mentioned improving nitrogen, reducing your fertilizer application, which is not only benefit for emissions, but it's good for, you know, it's good for the bank balance at the end of the day, because as you say, it's you know, you're only buying in one load rather than three. So there's clear benefits across the board. If there was one key takeaway for farmers listening to this, what would it be, Alex?
Key takeaway. Just the whole thing is phenomenal.
And I suppose the running costs are actually fairly low. It runs itself.
It runs it. Well, ours is done with electric motors to pump it. The electric motors is no running, squealing their head off. They're running very quietly. It's no costing a lot of money to run them to pump the slurry up to the separator. Whereas before, you're hooking a tractor power drive on every second day to pump the slurry. The tractor that does it used to have a tank of diesel once a week. Now it's once a fortnight because it's not pumping slurry. When you go to mix the slurry, you'll be away with 3/4 tank of diesel in that tractor just to mix it with a jetter. The big savings there, big savings.
Aye, very good. I'm sensing potentially in the future, if you're saying come and visit us, I'm sensing perhaps a little farm advisory service event at the farm, which would be good. It'd be good to come down and see it in operation and how it works. I think just for the time being on this podcast, it all sounds great. There's clearly lots going on that not only benefits the farm, but benefits, you know, emissions too. And just, yeah, Alex, Heather, thank you so much for taking time out this morning, and I wish you all the best with it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast, James. How are you getting on today?
Hello, I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, all good. So just thinking back then, thinking there, we've spoken, we've heard from Heather and Alex at Haggs Farm. What was your main highlight on their farming system?
So I mean, probably the highlight for me was actually getting my own mind changed. I'm always open to ideas, but slurry separators, it's never been something I've been convinced of. As in, I just kind of didn't really see the point, really. I just kind of felt, what's the problem? Just spread the slurry, mix it and spread it. But certainly it sounds like it's had a real benefit for Alex and Heather.
First of all, from your experience, James, why is slurry important for grassland management and soil health?
So slurry is a waste product, but it's phenomenally valuable in terms of its nutrient content as a feed source for our crops and for our grass. particularly in the dairy context. I mean, farmers, there's a lot of chat about the kind of in government policy about kind of less waste and more kind of like circular economies, whereas I think farmers are the original circular economy. A lot of our feed is made up of waste products from human food production, and nothing goes to waste on the farm. All the kind of excreta from the livestock is spread back onto the fields to produce our next crop. And I mean, even old tubs from that used to have feed in them are quite often reused to give livestock water and things like that. So we're very good at not wasting anything.
Can you give us some examples of the benefits, or certainly from your viewpoint, of the slurry separator?
Yes, I mean, in this case, Alex and Heather, they had a practical problem. So government policy and legal changes to legislation has changed so that now farmers of particular sizes of herds have to use precision slurry application technology. And by 2027, all farmers will have to use precision application technology. So in this case, they used a dribble bar. Dribble bars, there's two common complaints with dribble bars is that they get clogged. So that was the problem in this case. And then there's also particularly dairy farmers who are doing more kind of frequent cuts of silage do report issues that they're still seeing the slurry on top of the grass. It's not rotting away quick enough. So in this case, the slurry separator has been the answer to their problems. So by removing the fibres from the slurry, they have reduced the kind of clogging issues in the dribble bar. It's easier to mix the slurry, so there's going to be reduced kind of resource use relating to mixing. They're going to be using less fuel to mix the slurry. It also increases their storage capacity, so there's also legislation being introduced around the minimum storage requirements that have to be available for storing slurry on farms. So you have to be able to store any kind of dirty water or slurry you produce for 22 weeks now. So again, that's reducing that kind of amount of slurry, the actual kind of physical quantity of slurry that has to be stored by removing the kind of fibrous part of the slurry is going to increase their storage capacity. They're also going to see increased utilisation of that slurry. So Minnie described it as liquid gold, but by removing the solid part, you're going to have a nutrient-dense solid part, which you're able to target that at fields that have got a particular soil nutrition problem. And then the more kind of liquid part can go on to the rest of the fields that don't have such a nutrient problem. So removing that fibrous part, it's going to reduce the risk of the slurry still being on the grass when they go to take their crop of silage. So it reduces the risk of silage contamination, which is going to reduce the risk of any of the kind of the problems that's associated with that, such as kind of the animal health risk from animals then eating that silage that's been contaminated with the slurry. And you're going to have fuel savings along the way with slurry handling, so you're going to use less fuel when you're actually spreading the slurry. You're not going to have any time wasted as well trying to unclog the block dribble bar. So it sounds like it's been a real benefit for them and their system.
Another highlight for me was the fact that Alex talks about buying in one load of fertiliser rather than 3 loads. So you're not only reducing putting artificial fertiliser on the ground, there's a benefit to the bank balance as well, James.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like the price of fertiliser is quite variable. We've seen that kind of skyrocket in recent years. So reducing your reliance on imported synthetic inorganic fertiliser like bagged fertilisers, I mean, it's crucial to kind of protecting yourself from these kind of market fluctuations. So reducing that kind of need by 2/3 is going to be massive for them financially in a normal year. But the years where we see the price of fertiliser skyrocketing, they're really going to benefit. Not to mention the environmental benefit of reduced fertiliser use.
You mentioned there about the legislation and the legislation changing. What are some of the critical things that farmers need to be aware of going forward?
Yeah, so going forward, basically the two main changes in relation to this subject is that the minimum storage capacity you've got to have if you operate a slurry system. So you've got to have at least 22 weeks of storage. In addition, the other big change is that you have to now use, depending on your herd size, so if you've got over 100 dairy cows, you have to use precision slurry application technology. So that is either a dribble bar, a trailing shoe, or a shallow injection system for spreading your slurry. So you're no longer allowed to use splash plates. And a lot of farmers have been trying to get around this they've been reporting this issue with using dribble bars, that the slurry's still sitting on top of the grass when they're going to harvest it. Some farmers have been trying to use little miniature splash plates that gets fitted to the nozzles on the dribble bar to spread that slurry, and that is not compliant with the legislation, so they're still in breach if they are using that. So the slurry separator seems to be a good solution to that.
Now, you in your role as an agricultural advisor, you're out and about on farms quite a lot. Have you seen other good examples similar to that of Alex and Heather?
Yes, so there's quite a few farmers operating slurry separators. There's also quite a few farmers that use contractors or hire a slurry separator for a couple of days. They hire it in to separate their slurry, particularly if you're going to be using a lot of people are now using lagoons, which can be a challenge to mix. So if you've got it separated and the stuff that's in the lagoon is just the liquid part, it's not going to need much mixing. So it is becoming quite common, yes, to see slurry separators being used on farm.
If I'm a farmer listening to this, James, and I'm thinking about introducing a slurry separator on my farm at home, what are some of the key considerations?
Yeah, so the key considerations you'll need to consider when you are considering implementing a slurry separator as well. You need to have a place to store the solid part. So you need to have storage for the solid part. You need to have facilities to facilitate the separation. So you're probably going to need a reception tank where you can pump the slurry to for it to be separated. So there is probably potentially, depending on your situation, it sounds like in their case there was no infrastructure cost to install it. But certainly on some farms there will be an infrastructure cost to installing this kind of system. But there's also an infrastructure benefit. As we'd already said, your slurry storage is going to go further. You're going to be able to store more liquid because you've removed the solid part.
If there was one key takeaway for farmers listening to this, James, from your viewpoint, what would it be?
So I think the key takeaway is it's both going to be a financial benefit and there's an environmental benefit. So research has shown that separated slurry, so slurry without the solid part, without the kind of fibres in it, it produces between 10 and 25% less methane during storage. You're going to reduce your storage volume of raw slurry, so obviously the solid part's being removed, and there's going to be, therefore, probably it's going to be easier spread, it's going to be quicker spread, there's going to be savings in that in terms of fuel, or if you use contractors, which a lot of people do, it's probably going to be a bit cheaper if there's going to be less slurry to be spread, so it'll be quicker, so there'll definitely be a saving with regards to that. With regards to the soil other benefits, the liquid part's going to, because as the solid part's removed, it's going to infiltrate the soil faster. So there's an argument to be made there that it could be kind of faster acting, that the plants will get access to those nutrients quicker. Slurry that's been separated also produces less ammonia volatilization, which means that there's no big clamp down on ammonia here yet, but certainly in Northern Ireland that's something the government's cracking down on. So if you can reduce that through having it separated, that's going to be a real benefit. So as I said, there's fuel savings. In their case, they've got an electric motor running the system, so you're not even using diesel, so you're just using electricity, which is a lower emission type of energy. And as I said, they've managed to reduce their fertiliser use through being able to make better use of their organic manures that they produce on farm. So just for frame of reference, for every kilogram of nitrogen fertiliser used, it's an extra 6 kilograms of carbon emissions. So for every kilogram less of nitrogen fertiliser you put on the farm, 6 kilograms of carbon better off. So is the planet.
You've mentioned many benefits of the slurry separator. I think perhaps for me, Alex and Heather, they didn't necessarily introduce the separator for environmental benefits. It was a way to improve their system, as you touch upon as well. It's improving the quality of their grass. It's improving the quality of their silage. And having since done it, it's reduced fertiliser application, which has reduced costs, benefiting grass and soil health, which has also benefits to the environment. Who knew we could get so excited about slurry, James, this afternoon? Really just to wrap up, thanks very much for joining me, and I wish you well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us for this special episode of the Rural Roundup. Check out the other 5 episodes of the Unsung Heroes series, all available to listen wherever you normally do right now. If you'd like to get in touch or find out more about anything that we've discussed in the podcast, head to the show notes. This episode was presented by me, Calum Johnston, produced by Kerry Hammond, and edited by Cameron Walsh in association with the Scottish Government.